Crypto is a wild and volatile space, and Cardano is still a part of that. But whenever things get really wild and really volatile, it's good to take a second and just remember what drew us here in the first place. Ready? Let's go. By the way, I was not talking about Porsches. I know that website served as a Porsche ad there, but I am not about to tell you a narrative about how we all got into crypto for Porsches. Although that would probably make a pretty funny video, but that's not what this is going to be. I'm also not going to go on a diatribe about everything that Cardano wants to do in the developing world. I think that's really important, but that's not what we're talking about today. Also, before we hit this topic, remember Cardano 360 is this Thursday. So if you want to know about everything going on in the Cardano ecosystem, and there's a lot right now, tune in this Thursday on YouTube. I also want to remind everybody, please, if you have an amount of Cardano that you care about, please put it on some kind of a hardware wallet. It is very unlikely that the bad guys will sneak into your house and push the button on your hardware wallet to send your crypto away. The chances of that happening are very, very low compared to the chance that they remotely steal your crypto. When I go on the internet every day and I read these horrible, tragic stories about people losing their life savings because they kept all their crypto in some kind of a purely password accessible wallet, and lo and behold, the bad guys were able to guess the password. It's super sad. Don't be that person. The Ledger Nano S is only $59. If you want to get fancy, the Ledger Nano X is a little bit more. There are affiliate links for this below. I'll make a small commission if you buy through that link. Both Tesla and SpaceX almost went under. This is a famous story. You've all probably heard it before, but it's really remarkable to think about this. I mean, today, Elon Musk is one of the richest men on the planet. Tesla is the most valuable car company. SpaceX is doing amazing things. But it was really interesting to see Elon actually comment on this. So Elon, goes through a quick one-sentence version of the narrative. Again, they were on the last possible day to get a financing round in before they couldn't make payroll. And on December 24th, 2008, they got the money and they were able to make payroll. Tesla and SpaceX continue on to do the great things they've done today. It was interesting that Elon points out, I gave Tesla last of my remaining cash from PayPal, didn't even own a house or anything sellable. So Elon did not even own real estate or anything he could sell. He'd taken all of his cash, quite a pile of cash from PayPal, and shoved it into Tesla to keep things running. This was a guy who really believed in what he was doing. He really believed in this electric car thing. And on that day, it would have been hard to predict how things would look 13 years later. But he went all in on this thing, and I think the electric car industry is about 1,000 times better off because of it, right? We're probably way further ahead on EVs than if Elon had just thrown in the towel. And we've got a similar level of dedication in Cardano, in IOHK and Emergo and the Cardano Foundation and this crazy billionaire, Charles Hoskinson. They're as in on Cardano as Elon was. So I thought it was really interesting. And I know we're also one of the most committed communities in cryptocurrency. This made me think about what it was that initially drew us in. Why has Charles spent, the last 5 years of his life working so hard on Cardano? Why everybody at IOHK, everybody at the Cardano Foundation, everybody at Emergo? Why all of us? Why are we watching these AMAs with Charles all the time? Why are we consuming all of this Cardano news? And I think it's actually something very central to the cryptocurrency space as a whole. Cardano is the thing that might fulfill the promise that crypto made from the very start. And that promise is a money that doesn't abuse us like our current monies do. I said like our current money currently abuses us on purpose because it hasn't always done this to us, right? This whole thing that's happening between us as humans and this money concept that we created, it hasn't always been this way. We used to be on the gold standard. Like throughout our history, throughout modern history, we were on and off the gold standard. And in a lot of ways, it helped mitigate this whole a small number of people controlling everything economically across the globe, right? When it was linked to gold, I don't have to tell you the story. The gold bugs do a great job of constantly reminding us of this. When it was linked to gold, right, there was no way to just inflate away national debts. That was until August 15th, 1971. So Richard Nixon, we had the Vietnam War, we were running big national deficits. France was trading in all the dollars it's got, all of its dollar reserves for gold, creating big problems. What do you do when you've got a debt and you have the ability to change the value of that debt? Of course, you change the value down. And that's what the US did on August 15th, 1971. Richard Nixon ended the gold standard in the US. It's way easier to be a debtor if you can just print more dollars and make the value of those dollars go down when your debts are enumerated in dollars. So it was actually supposed to be temporary, right? They devalued the dollar from $35 per troy ounce of gold to $38. That didn't do the trick. So they devalued it again to $42.22 per troy ounce of gold in 1973. But because we live in 2021, we know that that also didn't work and that we never went back on the gold standard. And here's what's happened between the dollar and gold since 1973. It's a market like anything else has gone up and down, but it's pretty much over any longer timeline that takes into account these cycles, it's pretty much just gone up and up and up and up. And while you may say to yourself, hey, gold is a luxury asset, that's not something I need for day-to-day living, you do need things like housing. And housing, since this 1971 departure from the gold standard, has pretty much done the same thing. If you're a human being who needs shelter from weather, not all of us do. I know some of you probably live in beautiful, perfect climates, but most humans want a little shelter from the elements. And your dollar has bought you much, 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 much less shelter than it did in 1971. It creates a situation where the average working person, even if they work as hard as they possibly could and they save their money, it's not necessarily a good thing for them to be saving that money, right? They put the money into a savings account, they put it in their mattress. If it's denominated in fiat currency that does the same kind of thing like that the dollar's done, and most currencies pretty much do this or worse, then every day that they held that currency, it became worth less and less and less. And so the next logical step is usually for people to say, well, they should invest their money. They should invest in assets that appreciate, right? Of course they should. But guess how many middleman extractions there are for them to make those purchases? If they want to buy stocks, if they want to buy equities, some stockbroker is going to make a bunch of money on that purchase. If they want to buy gold, a middleman's going to make money. If they want to buy real estate, a middleman is going to make a bunch of money. Several middlemen, more likely, are going to make a bunch of money. They can't really, there aren't fluid markets for them to invest in assets in order to turn that fiat currency, a depreciating asset, into an appreciating asset. And of course, Cardano, we all have plans. We all have hopes and plans, aspirations that Cardano can address those markets, right? Make it easier for the working person to buy a house without paying a million middlemen. Make it easier for them to buy security tokens without paying a million middlemen. Make it easier for them to buy any kind of asset and not have these middleman fees being paid. But crypto's promise was to be that asset that people could buy that would appreciate, and there wouldn't be this huge number of middleman fees. And we achieved part of that as soon as Bitcoin got big. You could say during the Mount Gox bubble slash fiasco slash heyday, you know, it became apparent that Bitcoin was that asset that was going to achieve this huge appreciation, something that people could have mined with a laptop. Very little investment to acquire it in the early days, and it became this like crazily appreciating asset, right? And eventually exchanges rose up, and you could argue that those exchanges are taking the exact same types of extortionist middleman fees that are unnecessary that we need to do away with. But at least there was this asset that people could buy, right? And it was a lot easier to acquire than, it was a lot easier to jump into crypto at its early stage of life than it was to jump into equities, where you're not even allowed in the US. At least you're not even allowed if you're not an accredited investor. It actually worked well for a while. I've mentioned on this channel before that I had a brick and mortar business and people used to pay me in Bitcoin. It was actually the easiest way for them to pay me. If they had Bitcoin, it was easier for them to pay me in Bitcoin than almost anything else. All I needed was my address and they would pay me. It was great. But then Bitcoin started to fail at scaling. It became obvious that the current architecture of Bitcoin was not going to be able to grow. The throughput was not going to be enough to become the thing we needed to become. And then Ethereum came along. We're like, programmability, this is great. This is going to solve all the problems. This will solve all the problems with Bitcoin. And Ethereum worked well for a little while as well. And then it became obvious that the architecture of Ethereum wasn't sufficient for it to scale, right? I think the CryptoKitties moment showed that to everybody. I mean, there's sort of a debate beforehand, but CryptoKitties showed us that there was no way that Ethereum was gonna scale, right? But this dream that we could create a better money, a money that didn't punish hardworking people for holding it, right? That dream never died. Bitcoin proved insufficient. Ethereum proved insufficient. But we have a chance to jump much closer to that goal with the Gen 3 blockchains. And Cardano is the leading contender there, in my opinion, right? My whole bet being involved in the Cardano ecosystem is that, who knows? Nobody can really guess. These markets and communities, everything in crypto, this whole space, it's like an exercise in chaos theory. We don't know. The markets might not see, they might not understand the, technical advancements, the innovation. It might turn out that we're wrong about the value of the technical innovation. There are so many factors, right? It's like way too many variables for us to even understand. But there's a good chance these Gen 3 blockchains, there's a good chance they can move us way closer to that goal. And I think that Cardano has the best chances just based on the methodology and what they've already produced. I think Cardano moves us the closest to actually fulfilling this dream of a better money that can actually be used as money, right? It's like Bitcoin is no longer the easiest way for anybody to pay me any amount of money, pretty much, right? If we both go to the great trouble of setting up a Lightning Network channel, maybe that works. Maybe Lightning works. If we want to go to the trouble of setting that up, which nobody does. Ethereum could work. At some point in the future, Ethereum could be an easy way for us to transmit value, but nobody knows when that date's coming. But Cardano has this opportunity. Like it might actually be easier for people to pay me in Cardano soon for all kinds of things than it is to pay me via dollars, right? And there might be enough network effect to Cardano, maybe only in certain areas first, maybe only in the developing world at first, but enough network effect might build that it really becomes an easier way for people to transmit value. And then that'll make it easy for the average person who's working really hard to actually store their hard-earned wages in a better money, a money that doesn't punish them for just being involved in the system. I think that's really why we all sort of got involved in this whole crypto thing, right? I mean, that and Porsches. But some part of us, even though greed, I can't deny that greed was probably a big motivating factor for all of us. Some part of us also was magnetized to this idea that we can have a better money that doesn't punish you just for being involved. And I think our involvement in the Cardano ecosystem can be chalked up to the idea that Cardano was our best pick, the best lead contender to move us the furthest along towards that goal. So at crazy volatile times like this, I pretty much don't pay any attention to all the volatility. I just think about this awesome little journey we're all on together. Talk to you tomorrow.